people grow up and experience more classes, and hopefully we can shed some light to that.
Before we go any further, just like our colleagues before, we'd like to define these key terms so we're all on the same page. So for culture, for this specific presentation, we decided to use the term of a pattern of beliefs, behaviors, and values that are maintained by a group of interacting people, and it's passed on by future generations, or to future generations. And I think that's the key point there, because if it's not passed on, then it's not culture. Then intercultural competency, essentially what this whole presentation is about, is the capability to accurately understand and adapt behavior to cultural differences and commonalities. And the important thing there is the differences and the commonalities. We'll talk more about that, and the acceptance of the differences and the commonalities is what acceptance is, which we'll talk about.
Just kind of a bit of our methodology that we use. Our population were the undergraduate students within the College of Education, and we had 779 students over the course of 10 years that have taken the IDI, the Intercultural Development Inventory, which is also our instrument. Our setting was our mid-sized Midwestern Public University. And then using that IDI as a survey, and we implemented at 3 different data collection points. And then with the help of our statistics grad student, we used SPS descriptive statistics as well as t-tests.
And then here's the basis that we used right here, as you guys have seen in the previous presentation. It's divided into 2 sections there, the ethnocentric stages and the ethno-relative stages. What ethnocentric means is it means you're using your own culture as a standard of culture in general. So when I come here to Germany, I'm using my own culture as the standard. So I believe that individuals should act as I do, because that's my culture, if I was in one of those stages. Ethno-relative is where you have a more open-minded. So ethnocentric, I say in layman's term, it's a little bit closed-minded perspective, unfortunately. Ethno-relative, you open up your mind a little bit more, and you do not try and impose your own values based on culture onto different groups of individuals. You're able to accept those differences and the commonalities and immerse in the culture.
We collected data on a few different things. Demographics, academic major, experience with cultures different than those of your own. Measure that intercultural sensitivity using that IEI that we have talked about. And then ours in specific, we collected data at the beginning and end of the first semester in EEC 222, one of our classes. And then we did it again just before the final semester of the program, before students use what they've learned throughout the course of the program and go into the classroom as student teachers, and which is the final step before they graduate and hopefully find a job as a education teacher somewhere.
Here are the demographics more in depth, and we do want to say that these demographics do reflect the elementary education teachers in America today. So it's predominantly female, childhood in North America, and never lived outside of the US. So we just want to highlight that and show that this does reflect it.
So this slide kind of answers that first research question we have, which is important because it's our baseline. That first time a student took the Intercultural Development Inventory, that survey, and out of those 779 participants, the average was the 88.863, which lands you right in that ethnocentric minimization stage. And in the next slide, kind of reiterate that and explain just what that is and where it lies on our continuum. So the arrow points to right about where that mean, that average was at 88.863, but students can start anywhere at denial, and to kind of reiterate that, which is you're just unaware of your own culture, other cultures, and as you move forward into polarization, which is not where we would like you to be, but it's a step in the right direction, and that's that judgmental orientation where you perceive other cultures as like us and them. And then minimization, which is still in that ethnocentric stage, is where you can begin to minimize or see the similarities between cultures, but doing so, you mask the underlying important differences. And differences are just as important as the similarities, and then both should be appreciated. And then moving forward into acceptance, you're now in that ethno-relative stage, which is pretty much the exact opposite of ethnocentric. And you're able to see all those similarities and the differences and accept those. And then all the way to adaptation, you use what you learned in the prior stages, and you're able to appropriately adapt your behavior when with people different than yourself in authentic ways.
And the way I like to describe this too for any visual learners out there, I call it the magnet. So with denial, if you have two magnets, they don't understand anything exists. Polarization, if you have two magnets on polar sides, you try and put them together, and they're just polar opposites. So they push each other away, us versus them. Minimization, that's where if you physically try and take magnets from polar ends and put it together, you still feel that pushback. You can push them together a little bit, they're trying to find those commonalities, but you can't put together completely. Acceptance, you can put them together, but still easy to break apart. So they're understanding commonalities and differences, accepting those can come together. And adaptation is where they're completely together. They can immerse themselves in another individual's culture and adapt to how they live. This is the big slide here. This, I'd say, is one of the most important slides in the whole presentation because this proves the second point for the second research question here. So the semester one, this is just one semester here. We did a pre and a post test. So about the second week of the semester, we had the individuals, the students in the class, take the intercultural development inventory. We recorded their scores and took it down. About the second to last week of the semester, we had them take the intercultural development inventory again. And we recorded their scores, and thankfully we were able to see their growth. And their growth on average was 5.87. And this was, then the post-test there, so that is 422. This class is right before individuals go into student teaching for the elementary education program. So they're finished with the program, just let the student teach, they'll get their degree, and they'll go on from there. So we recorded their post score after they were done with that class, and then we got their post score still from that first semester and saw the growth from there. And that on average was 15.80. And then we looked at the overall growth. So from the pre-test of the first semester, so the first time they ever took the intercultural development inventory, and then post 422, so the final time they took it, and their overall growth. And that was 21.67. And with 95% certainty, we can say the lowest growth that any individual had with that was 16.37, and then the highest was 26.94. And for this, we did have 47 subjects that we were able to see the overall growth, and all 47 of those were in the elementary ed program. So I know the number was 700 something before, but we were only able to get the data for 47 for their continuation throughout their whole education for elementary ed.
So in conclusion, students who began their path to becoming a teacher within the College of Education all began at that ethnocentric minimization stage. We saw statistically significant positive growth at the last two data collection points, as shown in that prior slide that Jonathan just talked about. And then to wrap it together, developing one's cultural competency will in return prepare students or teachers for a diverse classroom.
So there's some recommendations here. Even though we do have 10 years of previously archived data, thanks to our faculty member, Dr. Elizabeth Sandell, we do want more studies collected for this. So we want more and more people to do this. I know individuals asked, well, have you tried this in different colleges around the US and also the world? We would love to do that because I think it would prove the validity of this study, that individuals will most likely start in the ethno-relative minimization stage, and I think their growth should be just about the same if they take these proper steps. So the experience, knowledge, reflection, and mentorship. So when we took the IDI, we got our scores, and then our mentor teachers would talk to us and tell us how to grow, because a lot of it is you get defensive as a human. I don't think there's anybody who can take the survey and not get defensive when they see their results because they think they should be higher on the scale, which is the perceived orientation. So when I take it, I landed the first time in ethnocentric minimization. Second time I took it, so the semester growth, I was in ethnocentric minimization. I saw a little bit of growth. I took it 3 years later after doing research for a year, and I'm like, this is awesome. I'm gonna be in acceptance for sure. I was really excited, and I landed in ethnocentric minimization. And it was awful. I was angry for a couple days, but I got excited because I could see that I can still improve. We can always still improve. We can't get defensive and go, well, this is awful. I'm gonna give up. Keep growing.
And then I just wanted to add that growing your cultural competency does not happen just by chance. It's with help of, like the College of Education, and within that EEC 222 class, you're required to do things like service learning. And like for example, I did mine. I found that in my own life, I have the least amount of experience with people with disabilities, and so I volunteered at a place called LEAP. And so we did different events and working with them, and then I had a cultural partner. And using those two things and then reflecting upon that, I was able to see positive growth in my own cultural competence. But like John said, I was like, all right, I'll at least maybe not be in adaptation or acceptance, but I still ended up in minimization, which was, I don't know, understandable, I guess. And you can see that in the zeros in that last column. That just kind of shows that it would not have happened by chance.
And also for anybody wondering where I think I stand here in Germany on the scale, I'm certainly in polarization. I don't think I am in denial when I'm here, but we've been here since Sunday, and I certainly still view it as me versus them, the us versus them stage. So our faculty member a couple days ago asked us what stages we think we're in, and it was very easy to think, oh, I'm accepting, this new culture. Hell, I'm even maybe adapting to it. Trying to do a little German speech, which I'm really bad at, by the way. But I was like, no, I am in polarization because I still view it as us versus them, which it's extremely easy to do. But as long as you understand that and can recognize it, then growth can happen. If you're blind to it and don't recognize it, you can't grow. It's absolutely impossible to grow from there.
And those are just a few of our acknowledgments. Our awesome research mentor, Elizabeth Sandell. And just a big thank you for giving us this opportunity to present our research, and hopefully you guys can take something away from it.
And questions?